Hello, welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast, where we are reshaping life, leadership, and business from the inside out. And I'm welcoming all the way from Slovenia, where it is Tuesday mid morning, and I'm welcoming to the show Darko Butina. Welcome to the show, Darko.
Dee, thanks for the invite. Glad to be here.
No, me too. I just love your name. I told you that last time. I just love it. It's got such cool SaaS energy, future, innovation, dynamic vibes about it. I'm sure people tell you that all the time or not. It's not often I hear someone called Darko, and I absolutely love it. And I said it to you last time when we connected.
Even more interesting is that actually people don't call me Darko where I live, but they use the abbreviation, so a short name for that, which is Dare, which would be spelled as dare in English, which kind of corresponds to dare. So Dare, right? That would be short
Oh,
for
there you go.
Darko.
I know that's what I think we spoke about that when we
Yeah,
pre-connected the other. And I was like, Darko Dare or Dare Darko.
yeah,
And you are all about
exactly.
that. You are like not just here, you're in the future, you're revolutionizing, you're ahead of the game, and I'm looking forward to getting into this conversation. First and foremost, you are a founder and CEO of Reliabuilt, RELIB.IT, and I love that. It's only started in January of this year, 2026. There's some
Correct.
real new native babies, if you like, being born, and I'm having the privilege of having all the conversations with a lot of, I spoke to someone just before on the pod, and their company only started last November. So I feel very fortunate to be having these conversations. Reliability, it's a management operating system designed to help companies lead, scale, and transform in the AI-powered world. And boy, oh boy, are we in this. It's more than power. It's like a rocket at the moment. It's an AI rocket world. It feels bigger than just power, if you ask me.
Literally rockets as well.
Yeah, it's like an AI. Yeah, it is. It's like an AI rocketed world. You have a background spanning executive leadership, board roles, and international operations across Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and the US. And Darko, you bring a rare combination of business strategy and deep technology understanding interconnected. Your work focuses on helping the organizations move beyond the theory into practical transformation, whereby you're aligning the leadership systems and execution to drive that sustainable growth. And I'm really glad that sustainable comes through, because when we've got rockets and, like everything taking off, it can either go really fast and blow up, or it can go fast and do it in a sustainable way as well. And I think that's super important. You're the author of Management in AI-Powered World, AI-Powered Leader, and Dynamic Strategy. And you outline a clear evolution from understanding the impact of AI to leading transformation to building operating systems that allow businesses to adapt in real time. And at the core of your philosophy, you have this is a shift from static planning to dynamic strategy, where leaders
Correct.
continuously recalibrate in response to change rather than rely on fixed models in a really unpredictable world. When you responded to my question, I asked you, what's, one unique insight or lived experience, or how you're reshaping life, leadership, and business. You talked around management in an AI-powered world with visionary future-looking predictions and everything about your books. I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'm going to let you tell us a bit about your journey, and I'm going to turn my phone onto silent because it just went.
Cool.
Over to you, Darko. Tell us, you can start wherever you want to start.
Well, maybe if I start from, well, not exactly from behind, but somewhere in the middle, what I want to say with the middle. So with speaking about AI, I mean, I've been in touch with the technology for decades in essence, and I had the privilege also to observe fairly early developments in machine learning and AI in a variety of different forms and formats, even before it got really AI became household word or name, right? So before OpenAI came up with ChatGPT version 3 or 3.1 back in, I think it was 22. So during my career, I've had the privilege to be involved in a variety of different companies and industries, which gave me quite a unique insight into the workings of management and leadership in different cultures, in different countries, in different environments in very different companies. So from production companies to pure services companies, from media to IT software development, and. And when basically the AI revolution started to really brew and become kind of more mainstream, I started to observe how companies and especially the management, top management, was a bit lost at what to do with it and how to do with it.
Mm.
And the things that I wrote in my first book basically came true in the years to come. So things like I predicted that the middle management is going to start to disappear because of AI. That's what we see today happening in almost across the board. Any company that's really investing in AI comes sooner or later to that the importance of middle management gets diminished and. But what I especially saw is that people either are super afraid of AI, which means that they kind of try to push it away, or on the other side, some people obviously use it for their own benefit. But in the business, the effect of AI was talked about, but not really shown, right?
Or
There are very,
implement
very
it.
few companies. Yeah, exactly. I mean, not just implemented, but the companies, even those that implemented AI into one way or another into their business, they failed to see real benefits out of that. And
Right.
that was kind of also behind the other books that I wrote, where I try to deal with how to do that properly. By properly, I mean how to implement it in a way that you really see benefits on the company level and not just on a personal level.
Mm.
I mean, truth be told, each of us, you, me, personally, we do use AI in our daily workings, right? And it does save us a lot of time, or we can do a lot more.
My gosh, yeah.
But in a company, usually people translate that to, oh, now I have more time for coffee, or, I have more time to grab a cigarette break, or I have more time for lunch because I've already done all of that with the help of AI. And for the companies to really grasp that, they need to approach basically AI from a bit different perspective, which is they need to understand it's actually a business transformation. So it's yes, it is a technology, but it's not about the technology. It's about changing processes. And when you start to change processes and basically develop them around AI, you start to see the magic coming out of AI in the sense of business. That means efficiency, scalability, and. And in essence, that's basically what really fascinates me about AI, the potential that it has to make what we do in general a lot more productive. Not in the sense that we can generate more bureaucracy or stuff like that, but in effect, what we are able to achieve with it, right? And when you start to then deploy really AI technologies for specific use cases, you also see that there's so much good hidden in there that it's amazing. On the other
Mm.
side, as you mentioned, I mean, we talked about a month ago. Currently, we have the whole situation in the Middle East slash Iran with basically the war brewing. It's how to say. On one side, we see how also AI can be misused because what we see with the whole war machine workings
Mm.
there in Ukraine and so forth, we see basically misuse of AI. The other side, AI can have the potential to discover new drugs, to discover new cures for various diseases, for
Yeah.
stuff that we never imagined that we would have at this point in time, right? And all of that basically makes me super excited for the future. And that's in essence also the reason why I'm active in the field that I am active in.
Yeah, it's quite incredible. Tell us a little bit about dynamic strategy. I'm intrigued by, and I think for the listeners and the audience here, you've called out some really good points. I actually heard a stat the other day. We'll just park dynamic strategy for a second. There's a billion people in the world still that have not even touched AI. And I was like, whoa, like that's pretty wild. So there's almost like you were talking about the fear piece. And yeah, that's pretty wild in terms of 1 billion. And then there's all the others that are using it and only using it for personal use. And then you talk about the impact it's having on businesses and the impact it can have on the total ecosystem is fascinating. Are you like, I mean, is that like, what are you like, what's your view on, before we get into dynamic strategy, in terms of before, we're in this revolution, before it becomes like the internet and that everyone's using it, how far off are we, do you think?
I mean, I, I, I think that we as a civilization have a general problem with basically inequality in essence. And I don't mean inequality in the sense of somebody has a bit more cash and somebody a bit less. I mean, that can be an issue as well. But even more so in the sense of what somebody has access to and what somebody doesn't have access to. And AI is a great example. I mean, I've seen research that basically not just about the access, that 1 billion did not have access to AI, but it's even worse that in essence, where the majority of the use of AI happens today, and with the majority, it's like 90+%, it happens in the most developed countries, not
Yeah.
anywhere else, which means
Yeah.
that the gap between the least developed and the most developed countries just goes up and up and up. I mean, it widens, right? The gap. So I do
Yeah.
believe on one side that that's an issue, but I also do believe that if we will use the technology, and if the technology can generate us, as I mentioned before, if we talk in terms of health industry, new drugs, new discoveries that basically can cure various diseases, and it can do that for a fraction of the cost of today's drugs. I do believe that ultimately the whole world can profit off of that, not
Yeah.
just the most developed countries. So one side, I'm afraid of that because the differences in society mean that there's friction. And whenever there's
Mm.
friction, there's a chance for conflict, which means war. On the other side, I do believe that the technology also has the potential to improve our well-being on average so much
Yeah.
that
Agree.
even though there's friction, there's not, you know, people are not that much dissatisfied, and they can live with some people having more, some people having less, but everybody being better off in the end. So
Mm.
hopefully it's going to lead to that. I don't want to be kind of too doomsday
No,
prophet in
I
the
like
sense of saying, there's going to be too much difference and then there's going to be World War III or whatever. So I try to be an optimist regarding that. And I try to be an optimist also with respect to that. Well, as humans, I hope we remember the lessons from the past and the history. And we do not want to repeat, I don't know, World War II or any kind of wars that have been around for, well, in the last decades or in the last 100 or 200 years, right?
yeah. I
So
feel like we're in a real
that's
oh, sorry, you go.
no, I just wanted to say that's basically my perspective regarding how AI influences that. And I wanted to
Yeah.
say basically it ties into the dynamic strategy, which is basically an answer to the ever changing world. I mean, you and me, I mean, not just us two, right? Everybody, we have observed how internet and digitalization, they have reshaped the world, right? I mean, you're based in Australia, I'm based in Slovenia. Even 20 years ago, it would be unimaginable that me and you would be having this podcast right now, right?
I
It
know.
wouldn't be an option, right? I mean, internet was there, but the speed was not there, and. Or even 30 years ago, unimaginable completely,
COVID,
right?
even in COVID, when we were all learning how to use it, like no one was like, it was there. We weren't really
Yeah,
grasping it though, and then all of a sudden we got thrown into it, and it's almost like
yeah,
that's happening now with like a rocket ship though. It's like if you're not in it, like, do you know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. But for me, that's a great thing about technology, right? It connects
Yeah,
people actually a lot better than politicians or anybody else is able to do, right? Because again, if I touch on current world order, it seems that it's more kind of micromanaged in the sense that more countries are be getting closed up and so forth. But technology actually enables us to connect, right? Which is great. And
yeah,
the trick is that the technology, what it also does, it makes everything a lot faster, right? So things that we are able to do today and how fast we are able to do that, it's light speed compared to 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, right? And in this sense, the old approaches of management that use kind of a 5-year plan that's fixed and, you set it up once and then you follow it through for 5 years, they do not work. Why not? Because in 5 years, the world is completely different, right? The
Yeah.
markets are completely different. I mean, you can look at what was happening during the last year with all the tariffs flying left and right from the US. I mean, it's complete unpredictability, right? And
Yeah.
if you don't react to that, then you have an issue, right? So what I want to say with the dynamic strategy is that you need to start to lead the company not with a static strategy, but with a strategy that's in essence good to go. And then you improve it and shape it as you get feedback from employees, as you get feedback from the market or information from the market, as you observe your competitors, as you see how well you are doing in terms of are you hitting the plans or surpassing them or under delivering, and you need to adapt to all of that. And when you adapt the strategy, you basically kind of change the course of your ship a bit, if the company would be a ship. And when you do that, and if you're able to show that to all your colleagues, so to all the employees in the company, then they can follow you. And that, in essence, also means less middle management, more actual decision making on the front line, and with the top management really being focused on shaping the strategy constantly and tweaking the course of the strategy, right? And that's basically, in
Yeah.
essence, what's behind what I do, right?
Yeah. And the benefits of it being able to let AI spot the patterns. And then, like you say, when it comes to a dynamic strategy, you've got this, you've got this collaborator, this person in your team that's part of your team that is predicting, able to highlight all the patterns. And then as a CEO or as a leader, it's like, then what do you do with them? What does that mean? And how do you then, like you say, you get more, I guess, precise in your decision making, like in terms of, all right, we're going to have to pivot here now. Like there's like when you talk about the 5-year strategy, I know someone asked me that at the start of the year, what's your strategy for the next 12 months? And I kind of looked at them as if to say, I have a strategy. It's a very formless and fluid strategy in terms of I know what it is, but it's continuing to shape and reshape
Mhm.
and I even shaped it a week ago, like just based on the current state of play, like from an economy perspective, and was like, okay, I'm actually gonna maneuver this in this space because it's really important that we're able to. You can't just sit still in terms of, because if you do, you're being left behind. The other part I wanted to build into this is just, and you did smile at me pre-show when I talked to you about it, and there's rising complexity and there's also emerging complexity. And so on the daily at the moment, there's something new that's emerging and it's adding more complexity, it's adding another layer. How do you see leaders factoring that in when it comes to having a dynamic strategy? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you, in an
So,
AI powered world, how do you manage this emerging complexity that you actually have no control over?
so I think one thing we need to be super clear on, or at least that's my view on the world, is that business ultimately is done by and between people. So final
Yes,
recipients of the benefits of the business are humans and will continue to be humans, right?
I'm into
That's
that.
something that's something that we need to understand. So I'm not saying that, for example, in between there's a lot of ops where computers or agents only talk to each other and that's it. But final recipients of business outcomes are and will be humans, right?
Agree.
Now,
100%.
that being said, it also means that I believe, I mean, we humans have something we like to call ego. And with some of us, it's a bit larger, that part. And with some of us, it's a bit smaller, but we all have it. What I mean with that, we also like to make decisions. We like to, that's mine. That's what I stand for, stuff like that, right? maybe not all, but in the majority, I think all us humans do have that ego and want to say that. And that's especially valid for anybody who's in top management or, entrepreneur type of people and so forth. And what I want to say with that even though AI can do a lot of things, there are certain decisions that will not be replaced by AI.
No.
If I can be a bit plastic, it's like, if I found a company, I found it as a human person, right? Because that's how I can do that. AI currently cannot found the company, and I will define what the company does, right? And I will define
Yeah.
what the company does based on my preferences, not necessarily what's the most profitable, but what I believe is going to be good for me, right? Whether that means making money or, trying to achieve a certain goal or whatever. And that, in essence, also defines what the whole entity, the company will be doing, right? Now, how it does that, that's where the dynamic strategy and AI comes into play because it helps you be more efficient and, actually easier to achieve your goals. But the final decisions are still made by humans. So if you go now back to your question where you start in this world where there is more and more complexity and so forth, how do you grasp that? I think that the technology is exactly there to help us grasp that, right? As humans, we can process a certain amount of information, right? And if it's too much, we cannot process it all. So we kind of pick bits and pieces and then we rely on gut feeling, right? So if you want to decide, basically make decisions based on facts, you already today before AI or yesterday before AI, you used, I don't know, Excel spreadsheets to make analysis and to get information out of that. And that information, so digested information or analyzed bits and pieces, they helped you to make the actual decisions. And I think that in today's world, with increasing complexity, we will rely more and more on AI tools to do part of that, summarization, if you want to, of the data being looped in to interpreting the data, to interpreting the information ultimately, and then giving us those bits and pieces of information that we need to make a decision. If I go back to your question, I think the tools will help us make better decisions, right? And it's not only analysis, it's also ultimately they will take part of the interpretation of data, of information, and so forth. But it's not going to be separate from us, right? So it's going to be connected to how we think about things or to our perspective and so forth. And we see that already with today's LLMs that they're quite good at, like if you have a text and then you want the text to be more sassy, it will rewrite it in a more sassy
Yeah.
way, right? If we
Yeah.
want it to be
You know,
completely legal, it will rewrite it in a completely legal
totally
way, right?
like, yeah, from a tonal perspective. You know, you're highlighting something for me, and I think about the soul of a business, the soul of a team, you know, who we are. And, you know, in terms of a human, a leader gets to define the soul of the company. Yeah, sure. You know, AI can have the language when it needs to be serious from a legal perspective, or when it needs to be more SaaS, or when it needs to be more, you know, like commercially minded, etc. And then there's this opportunity listening to you and just me thinking about it, and what I'm doing with, you know, in my business as well, in terms of to dial in more of what is the soul of who we are, and bring more, I guess, fulfillment, more, you know, not taking away from the productivity, but like more meaning, more engagement, more purpose in terms of why we're doing what we're doing, if that makes sense. Like, I think there's an opportunity
I,
there. You may not agree with me, but I do think there is an opportunity for me in terms of, I think for so long, you know, and we're going through such a big revolution. All we've done is work, 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 work. It's like, you know, not, you know, hustle culture, all of that, work hard, like, and now there's this opportunity to look at it differently, and reshape it in a way that works for everybody.
I mean, maybe two perspectives. Number one, I do not believe that we work harder than in the past. I think that's a myth. It's simply
Okay.
not true. Why I'm saying that? Because, for example, if you look at all day farmers, right? All day
Yeah.
farmers, they needed to get up at 5 a.m. because, the animals are hungry,
It's
thirsty,
true.
whatever. You need to feed them. So it's not, I'm going to sleep for the next 2 hours and, it can wait. No, it cannot. You need to do it then. Then they needed to do the work in the fields. Then was lunch, again, work in the fields. Then came evening, again, dealing
Right.
with the animals and so forth. And you went to sleep. And by the way, no weekends because every day is the same. The animals, they need to eat and drink every single day. The plants that you have, in the fields, you need to, they need to be attended to every single day. There's no weekends, no holidays, nothing. You're not able to go for any type of vacation, nowhere. I mean, what we do today, you go vacation, you sit on the plane, you fly around the world. I don't know, I fly from Slovenia to Brisbane and, take a jump in the water or something. That's not something that in the past you were able to do, right? So I do not believe the myth that today we are working a lot more. I think it's a lot of the hustle culture in the sense that we talk about it a lot and there's a lot of psychological pressure in order to deliver. That's hard. I'm not saying that it's easy, but I would not say that we work more. I think that as a civilization in the last decades, we definitely work less and less and have more time for ourselves. How do we use that? That's a different story, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of one perspective. And I
I
just
love
need
your
to be
perspective.
reminded.
And I knew
Sorry.
you were going to do this. I love your perspectives because when we spoke the other week, you were like, if I said something, you're like, I've got this perspective, and I love it because it creates a great conversation here in terms
Uh,
of the ability to
and
challenge each other's thinking.
the second point to what you said, right? Because you said that you like the soul of the business and that's basically your focus, right? That's where you kind of
Part
see
of,
where you can
yeah,
contribute and so
yeah,
forth. And that part, I believe that with AI technology, paradoxically, it's going to become even more important.
I
Now, why I'm
agree.
saying that, it's simply, if you have AI helping you in a variety of different ways, in a myriad of different ways, what happens is that you lose, you lose the human connection, right? And you can argue, yeah, but AI you can have avatars and you can have whatnot and so forth. It's not the same. It's not exactly the same. And I personally believe, and I even predicted that in my first book, and I see also that being confirmed over the time that especially in the customer relationship part of the business, this human touch and human contact is becoming more and more important. So I
Mm.
even believe that in the future we will see a lot more whining and dining than in the
Oh,
past, right?
fun. Bring that back.
And more also this hospitality and wellness focus and. I think it's kind of sort of what you see also in tourism, like unique experiences and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
great experience down. Yeah,
I think there's an analogy, but I really believe that in the business today, um, the importance of building strong customer relationships that's
it's
between
important.
humans is
Yeah.
important. I mean, AI, you should use it, scale up, drive efficiency, and. And when you have that perfect solution, product, service optimized with AI, you do need to make sure that you have great customer relationships. And that's basically what's going to really drive your business and make it sustainable for the long term.
Yeah, and I love
So,
that. Because I've always thought, for me, it's all about the relational, connection, not the transactional connection. And I just don't think you can get away with transactional connections anymore because it's just, people want connections. I was reading something here in Australia, and it's no doubt happening in Europe, in Slovenia, etc. In terms of because we're in such this world of tech, and there's this, need for, you're going to see more and more experiences and more events and more real time, in person, what's the word I'm looking for? interactions, if you like, because for a while there, everything went online, it went remote, and now
Mm.
all of a sudden people are needing the fuel of the human connection. Like, if I could jump off into this screen now and sit down and talk to you and have this conversation face to face, it'd be like amazing. This is still
Yeah,
amazing the
it's,
way we're doing it, and it would be
but I
better.
completely
It would,
agree. I mean, COVID has taught us exactly what you're saying, right? I mean,
yeah.
COVID was like, yeah, we can talk digitally and it works, but there was a but at the end, right? But
Mm,
I would prefer to be with you in person, right? It's
yeah,
it's different, and
it
it's
is
it's it's a
different.
myriad of different things that AI can simulate, but there are others that AI simply cannot simulate. Those others are what makes us human as well, right?
Yeah.
And that we react to
Couple
those
of
things and so forth.
So true. I've got a couple of final questions for you. I want to just talk to you a little bit about the team and what you're seeing in terms of, based on everything you're doing, and the team dynamics, like dynamic strategy, dynamic team, dynamic leader. You talk about the AI powered leader. The team bit is fascinating for me right now. Like, when you think about, let's call it a leadership team. And in terms of, there's the human piece, there's also then the agents. Like, how do you, like, I was talking to you pre-show around, personality tests and strength tests and all that to get into the inner psyche of the leader and understand, everyone's, I call it strengths, and who's, like, it's almost like a sporting team, and everyone plays to their position. In comes now this other aspect of the team. They have to work together. They have to collaborate. There's days when don't necessarily collaborate. Like, what are you seeing in terms of, what's your view on this? Do you have a view? Like, have you thought about it? It's just something that's really, at the moment, I'm thinking a lot more about it, because even the old, you know, the old personality tests and the different systems we've had to understand how do you bring out the best in your team, that needs reshaping as well. It feels like, and I'm like, I want to start to reshape that, if that makes sense. My brain's just going,
Yeah,
Mm,
it's so I have basically a few principles that I rely on personally, but above all, I believe that those principles are also valid in the AI-powered world. Now, number one, we talked about how basically AI helps companies to become flatter, right? So less middle management. I think that's a great thing. Why? Because middle management, especially in large enterprises, is not the source of productivity, but rather the opposite, right? It's the dreaded middle management that, stops any progress. And, there are horror stories connected with that, right? Now, in fully AI powered company that I see, you have basically the top management that really directs the strategy. And then you have people at the front line, right? People that actually work with the customers. And I mean, number one, they do the majority of the work already today, right? And they will do the majority of the work also tomorrow. But the trick is that a lot of the decisions that they do not necessarily take today, because they need to go to their bosses and then to the boss of the boss and so forth, they will take them tomorrow. So I think that there's going to be a lot of delegation. What that means is that people will be a lot more empowered.
mm.
So I do believe in people. And for the record, I also really believe in the newer generations, right?
Yeah,
The
me
newer
too.
generations, they work differently. For example, I'm 50 years old, so I'm, slowly becoming a dinosaur in the business sense. But I really believe in the younger generation because I see that they have the drive and they have the grit to also, do the work and succeed and so forth. But they require a different approach. They need to understand why is it why and what they are doing. If they understand the why behind what, they will do that. And
Yeah,
that's
so
something
true.
that's hard to grasp for my generation, at least for some, and especially older generations. Completely
I'm
impossible
the
to
same
grasp.
age. I'm a little bit younger than
Now,
you. I'm 48. Yeah.
You are definitely younger than me. So, but what I want to say with that is, it's, I think that in terms of, uh, I lost my thread a bit. Um,
You were talking about the younger generation. Sorry, I interrupted you to say my age. You were talking about the younger generation, and then
yeah,
we were talking.
just a bit before we were talking about the
I
AI
was no,
impact.
I was asking about the team, and you were talking
No,
around
it's the team.
frontline
Yeah.
workers.
Yeah, sorry. So basically, this why I believe is one of the principles. I do
Mm,
believe in sharing with the team what you do and why you do. And
yeah,
also behind the dynamic strategy, whenever you change the strategy, it's not just changing it and change the direction. It's always
yeah,
communicate
so
that to employees, explain to them why, right? If they understand why, they are able to grasp that and take it with them and accept it and do it, right? If they don't understand why, they will simply don't want to do that, especially if it changes relatively often. And I think that this part regarding the team is super important and also basically presents quite a change to how the management has been done so far in a lot of
yeah,
companies, right? We talk
agree.
about, agile organizations for decades now, but it's some are more agile, some are less. I think that ultimately everybody will need to go down this path, right? And in there, because if you have that explanation and that comes with that you trust your people more than perhaps today, it comes with delegation of authority. So the chance that they actually make decisions. And in order to do decisions, to take decisions, they need to understand the environment. They need to have the information in order to take the right decisions. And it's all interconnected, right? So a transparent
Agree.
environment is also something that I believe is crucial and also helps for the team. Now, if we connect that with how does that work with AI agents, similarly, if you understand what AI agents do and how they help you be more productive, so how they are your assistant to, I don't know, take away the hard work, the repetitive work, the boring work, right? And you can really focus on the most interesting cases that are novel, where agents are perhaps do not excel at that. And you work then in unison there. I mean, if you understand all of that, you will be able to accept that. Now, why where these principles of mine come from? I mean, it's quite simple. I've been involved in a few turnarounds of companies around the world, literally, where I came into a company where you have zero money, zero anything, and so forth, and you need to turn the company around. Crisis management full on, right? Full speed ahead. Now, in such companies, what has been, at least from my perspective, what was the single largest difference that perhaps I made and that none of the others did, is that I tried to be as transparent as possible as to
Yeah,
where
so,
we are and where we intend to be, so where we will go.
yeah,
And if you present people with a certain certainty as to what your plans are and where you are going, they might not like it, but they will be able to accept that over time. Why is that? Because we as humans, we do not like uncertain environment.
no,
So for the majority of us, like 99% of humans, if the environment is not predictable, we're not okay with it. That's why we usually say, well, we always have done it like that. Or, yeah, but we
mm,
do it like this and
yeah,
it's okay. Just let me be, because that's predictable. I know that. And something
yeah,
else that you're mentioning is unpredictable. So if I'm able to outline for you even something else with enough detail and reasoning and explanation that it becomes predictable for you, then you are able to potentially accept that, right? And without that,
I
it's
think you're,
simply not going to
yeah,
happen. So
I agree. I think you're also, if the world is uncertain, that's not changing, and like us keep
it's
going,
not.
emerging complexity. is not changing, if you're able to create certainty, some certainty in an uncertain, unpredictable world, therein lies the opportunity to also be present in the moment. And, you know, that's where you are able to get the fresh perspectives, the ideas, you know, the ability to pivot, all of that, because you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future, you're here. And I think that's a real opportunity. Final question for you. You're going to think I'm really random. What is the next title of your book and what is it about, whether you've created it or not?
To be honest, my last book got published in February, so at the moment I don't have the next book lined up. Um, but if it's gonna be, it's gonna be probably around the whole topic that I deal with in basically all my books. I mean, I started to write these books 3 years ago, right? It's gonna be at the intersection of strategy, leadership, company, business, and combined with AI. Maybe not so much directly AI, but the whole changed world,
I
right?
love it.
I mean, even the last book,
Okay.
Dynamic Strategy, I mean, I believe it's enabled and powered by
Amazing.
AI, but it's not about AI directly. It's about the approach.
And then how do you, very, very, very last question before I ask you, how do we find out more about reliability? How do we find out more about you? How do you switch off? How do you ensure that you have what I like to call the non-time? How do you switch off from AI? How do you switch off from the tech? Do you ever?
To be honest, and if you would ask my wife, it's absolutely never. Uh, I mean, to be honest, I do enjoy, let's call it business, right? I enjoy what I do. So that's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily see this as,
Oh, I love.
so this meaning what I do as a burden. But it's also true that you do need to unwind. So I usually unwind if I'm able to go and travel somewhere for a bit longer period of time to be kind of, you know, just cultures, completely new
Sure.
environments and so forth. And yeah, not lie on the beach, but really travel.
Yeah, I love it. Darko, what a conversation. I feel like we could keep talking for hours. I'm going to let you get to the rest of your day. I'm going to go and have some dinner. And how do we find out more about reliability? How do we find out more about you and your books?
So I'm on one side, I'm present on LinkedIn, Darko Butina. On the other side, reliably, it's www.reliable without T. So RELIBL.IT, reliably. And my books are available on Amazon, basically
Amazing. And I'll
globally. So it's,
share the links. I encourage everyone to give Darko's books a read. Yeah, fascinating stuff. And Darko, thank you again for your time. Thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. It's always good to have someone like yourself on the show who has a really, really firm point of view, and also really humble, and I'll call it soulful, because at the end of the day, you're still team human in terms of we need people, and so we have this opportunity as well as people, and what we can do in this new world that we're in and that is catapulting away. So yeah, thank you so much for your time.
thank you as well, B, for the invite and for a great chat. So
Yeah,
glad,
really enjoyed
glad
it.
that we had a chance to discuss.
Me too. Thanks, Ducko.
Thank